Well, I arrived at the bus stop at 8:13, and the bus went right by me. We were seconds late for the bus. Supposed to be 8:15 post time for the bus, by the way. Not my fault. Anyway, the kids' school's on the way over to the barn, so I'm going to drop them off and continue on to the barn. Not a big deal. I did want to talk about yesterday. It was a big deal. It wasn't, certainly not the day we wanted. Some of the horses raced well. Some of them were flat. A couple of breakers. One breaker for sure. No, two breakers for sure. So I'm just going to get right into it. Carter Michael Dio, we all know why he was scratched. If you don't know and you're not following us close enough, that's fine. Carter Michael Dio, we detected a very faint line in his left hind sesamoid. There was some discomfort when he was jogging. Couldn't really put our finger on it. In between Dr. Bozenjack and Dr. McKee and some vet work, we ended up finding it. Now this is important because he was sound enough we could have tried to race him. But as I said to Dominic, this is a big, strong horse with a lot of torque. We need to find out what it is. My thoughts were that it was a bone bruise that was going to be a bugger to manage, to be honest. And I'll be completely upfront with everybody. I would much rather the shadow of the line, the faint line in a sesamoid than a bone bruise. So 4 to 6 weeks if we're lucky, 4 weeks in the pool. 4 weeks and then he can win the pool, maybe 3-4 weeks in the pool. Yeah, baby?
I could almost went when I grabbed him.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he almost went into the horse pool.
Yeah, well, that's good. So, Carter Michael Dio will be back. The projected time, now, optimistic projected time would be the end of August. I would think realistically shouldn't be any later than mid-September, which still puts him in line for 8 to 10 stake races in a very strong year. So what I would say what could have been an almost impossible month to take was averted had, thank you, sweetheart, that with Carter Michael Dio not being injured, because when you look at the rest of the month and the injuries we had, I don't know if I could have taken a Carter Michael Dio injury. It would have been extremely devastating for us, for me, for the barn in general. So thank you to Dominic and the vets for catching that. Carter will be back soon. Crantini, I'll be completely honest. I thought Spitfire would mop them yesterday. I liked Crantini, but from the outside, how would he behave? Scotty called me after. Here's a guy that's raced in every big race. They literally call him the money man. He raced in every big race, and he said it's so frustrating to drive Crantini. He said the stress really isn't there, and he's right. And I said, I know exactly what you're talking about, because no one would be shocked if he exploded. So it does take some of the stress off of you, but as a professional, it's still quite mounting. And he said he was a little hot, a little crazy, still in the warm-up, but better. There was some equipment changes yesterday. And I'd said to my wife, and I said to Megan, listen, I don't care what you put on Crantini. At this point, it's a comfort level, 1 for the horse, 2 for the driver, and 3 for the trainer. How Crantini was. Megan took the head check off him. We had raced Brace for Landing his first start with no head check, and quite frankly, I didn't mind him with no head check. We'll talk about him later in the week. But Crantini, no head check, fly mask, open him up, put a cheek roll on him and a Murphy blind. I thought the horse was good. Thought he was good, looked good, and obviously Scotty, as usual, did a great job. I think we kind of let Mark down a little bit, and it was no one's fault, certainly not even the horse's fault. What had happened was we had raced Spitfire overseas in Plainridge. We knew he was recovering. There was some blood work that was a little screwed up on him. And it may not have been that he was recovering. It may have been the front end of something, because yesterday after they scoped him, he was full of mucus. And somebody said, well, why would Mark get away 5th? Guys, they're not race cars. If you watch the race closely, Mark almost lost the horse 2 or 3 times. In fact, Mark did a very, very good job to keep the horse trotting. Numerous times in the mile, he felt like he just put a step in. Mark thought that maybe the bell boots, he was sticking a little bit at the Poconos track. Different surface. He might be right. He may be right. He may well have. Bye, guys. Bye. Addie Bear. Addie. You don't want your drink, honey? Here, Ollie. Can you bring her a drink, sweetie, please? All right, honey. Bye-bye. Love you.
She never drinks it.
So, where are we at here? So, Spitfire overseas. I thought that Mark did one hell of a job to keep him at his work and put him in a great spot. And the horse, sure enough, scoped. No blood, which is unbelievably good. No blood, but a ton of chunky white mucus. So definitely some sickness. Megan is drawing the blood on him today. They're going to start treating him aggressively. And I think, now here's the question though. Was it the surface? Was it the sickness? Why was he a little... That might sound silly to you when you say, why was he so bumpy? Well, if he wasn't at 100%, it's hard for him to do his work as well. Does he need any vet work done? Any maintenance itself done? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But I know that the horse did his work. You know, you could say he almost run, but he almost didn't run, right? He was doing his work very well, and that's why he didn't make a break. I think that Spitfire overseas raced good. He was definitely flat. I thought coming down the lane with the fractions, they weren't going to catch Timmy, but I really thought Spitfire would kick home harder, and he just didn't, right? Here's a horse, 28 flat in the end of it. 28 flat on the end of it at Poconos, where the 29 flat was a little 29-1 was a little deceptive in Plainridge because he got interfered with in the middle part of that quarter. So it wasn't really 29 apiece. It was probably 27 apiece speed on the end of it, the last eighth anyway. Anyway, second and fifth, not the end of the world. So we kick off the day with a second with Crantini and a fifth with Spitfire. At the time, a little deflated over Spitfire, but listen, long summer, he'll be just fine. Horse race great in Plainridge, and he'll bounce back in his next start, which will be in the Meadows in 11 days. Next Saturday, he'll be at the Meadows. So now we move on to Oak Grove and Plainridge. Oakwood Cowboy was actually the first one of the day. Now, Mark Beckwith told me there was a ringer in there, and was there. That horse jogged of Bruce Rangers. He obliterated them and looked good doing it, but quite frankly, Oakwood Cowboy did not race that well. His line looks okay, 52-4, 28 a piece on the end of it, but looked weak on the end of it, and spoke to Mark after. He thought maybe letting his hobbles out, but he said he's making a noise, and he shouldn't be. So he's going to have the vet look at him. There's options there. This isn't a, oh my God, what's wrong with the horse type thing. It's a managerial thing. So Mark is a very, very experienced horseman. Him and Melissa will get that horse under control for sure. Oakwood Cowboy, I know he said he's got him back in Saturday. I think I could tell by his voice maybe he wished he hadn't of after the race, but you know, he's trying to get him in where if they're going to give us opportunities, he's trying to take them. So I certainly would have done the same thing. Let's see how he races on Saturday. And then I guess just sticking with Plainridge, Haunted House was extremely good. Bruce Ranger said a little strong in the face, little rolly, but man, you know, he's so funny coming out of the turn. You're like, is he going to hold on? And then the big gray bugger just hits a gear and he's gone. And he's just he is a nice horse. You know, Mark always spoke very fondly of him, especially after we bought him, telling me how tough he was and how he did his work well. And it just looks like he's going to be a good fit for quite a while at Plainridge. Now, Kentucky was a real tough spot last night. Actually, quite frankly, Kentucky and Ontario weren't the greatest. I knew Ontario was going to be tough. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we'll go to Kentucky. I really thought Per Lucky would follow along and do well. Instead, he faltered and finished sixth. It was a poor mile. He'll throw them in every once in a while. As I said to Eric, you know, you're going to have to get him checked and looked at and make sure everything's okay. Mechanically, he looked fine. He just looked very flat. So we'll see how he bounces back next week. Landing Strip, at first glance, I was mad. I really, you know, I thought Landing Strip should have raced better. John had him in a good spot. He just, you know what? I'll put it to you the exact same way that one of our clients put it to me. You know what, Anthony? It just looks like he's a 156 trotter. It's a great analogy. That is pretty much perfectly put. I think you're probably right. So, when I look at Landing Strip and his breeding and how kind of he's still a little frail and immature over the hind end, I know he's going to be a better trotter in the future. But I think I kind of got to side with our client on this one and say, yeah, he looks like he's a 156 trotter right now. And he's not really going to do us much good, but he's going to do somebody some good. You know, we bought him to be, you know, I really thought this horse, when we were training him down, might get to New Jersey and race in the New Jersey Sires. And he is paid into stuff. But he's not a New Jersey Sire horse right now. You know that, and I know that. And where are we going to do? Pick up pieces in the non-winners of 1 or 2 with him? I think the better thing to do would maybe try to capitalize on him. He's got to be worth 32,000 right now, and if we were to get that for landing strip, I think it would be probably the best thing to do. Now, the argument from everybody, and it's a valid argument, is to say, why don't we just hang on to him, race him throughout the summer, and see how he is in the winter? We could do that, or we could be talking the exact same way. Remember, fastest mile of his life was last year at the Meadowlands when I raced him, I think 55 and a piece. He looked good, but he was a beaten 55. And it was funny because, I'm talking to Amy about it yesterday, and she said, well, Anthony, you would think he would come back better. You would think that. But you've seen historically, our horses sometimes are as good at 2 as they're going to be for a while. That's just what they are. We are able to get them to what God gave them as a 2-year-old. There's no really... I can look at landing strip and tell you he will be a better horse in the future. But I have no way to tell you when or how much better or what it will take to get there. And along the way, will he get injured? Will he not get injured? I'm looking at landing strip saying, what is this horse going to do for us right now? And the answer is simple. Exactly what he shows. And which isn't a whole lot just yet. There's the entire state of New Jersey is full of 56 trotters. In fact, it's full of 54 trotters. There's quite a few 53 trotters. Some 52 trotters, some 51 trotters. There may even be the odd 50 trotter. Not a whole lot of 56 trotters showing up and doing well in New Jersey. So, as of right now, he's a really handy non-winners 1, non-winners 2, depending on where you're at. Horse, he's going to do somebody some good, but I think it probably makes the most sense. I'm welcome to any arguments about not selling them. I just don't see what one would do it. Put it that way. So I suspect we're probably going to have some horses. A horse like Connie fits in the exact same situation. Just a horse, probably looks a lot better in the sales window than she is on the track right now. Anyway, currently, and I guess that's the easiest way to put it. There are people out there. We're looking for horses all the time. I bought some maiden non-winners 2 pacers, but it's because I thought they fit, and they did, right? And for the exact that fence is very short. What I mean by that is, it's easy to wander over to either side of that fence. You can be very useful right now or a little bit useless right now. It's not the horse's fault. It's just circumstances and timing. So when it comes to a Connie or landing strip, and I think both of them will find their way onto preferred, and there may be a lot of people in Ontario say, I'd rather race her in the Prospect. I would too. It didn't fill the other day. She's not quite good enough for the grassroots. We're going to race her Sunday in the non-winners at 2 at Flamborough. I don't think she's going to light the world on fire. She's just a horse. So I think both those horses actually are going to show up on the preferred site next week. And again, I welcome all arguments why we shouldn't for either of them. But as I said, I just think both of them look a lot better in the sales window than they do on the track. I guess that's the bluntest way to put it. And that's not anybody's fault. It's not me admonishing them, getting angry at the horse. You can only do what you can do. And we don't know who can trot in 53 until they trot in 53. Right? And that's the way I put it last night to Rob, one of our clients, about landing strip. He looks like he could trot in 53, 54, he just hasn't got there. And this is like 6 starts that he's trotted in 56, maybe 5. And he still hasn't really he's been in a position to follow and be closer, right? With that mile yesterday. Could have been a tighter 55 in a bit, but he didn't. He was a faltering 56. He's been in 56 a number of different ways, and I just think that's what he can do. So that's where we're at with landing strip. He'll likely be up for sale next week. Horn Player, the way she raced last time, and then we put her on Lasix. I was really, really excited to see Horn Player race yesterday, and then just go out and look poor. She looked so good when Chris Lems drove her. I thought she's sitting on a 54, 55 mile on Lasix for sure. That's what I felt. I felt she faltered because she bled a little bit. We were going to be able to mitigate that, and I was excited to see her race, and then never make not 1 but 2 breaks. I think I saw her break halfway down the backstretch in the backfield too. Just unimpressive and upsetting. And as I said to Eric, I'd like to know what's going on with this filly this week. It's hard to be mad at Eric. Landing strip did what he could do. Per Lucky was a little bit flat, and even Kyle Husted had the horse in a good place. He just was a little bit flat. And and Hornplayer. Just a bit of a disappointing break yesterday. And of all the horses that raced yesterday, of all the things that went on and all the, we had a couple that raced really, 2-3 that raced very, very good. Some that raced okay. Some that they just are what they are. Hornplayer was the one that hurt the most, I think, yesterday. And I'd like to see her bounce back. So we'll see what happens next week with her. Then we moved on to Mohawk. I knew Mohawk was going to be tough. There was no place on earth for Stay Close. No place on earth where Stay Close should race against Locatelli. And, I told Dominic, and I wasn't being angry about it. I said, the race office does that again. Stay Close will be on a truck and racing somewhere else immediately his next start. I know what they did. They filled the class so they could go with an open and a preferred. I get it. You're not using Stay Close against Locatelli. It's my job to protect the people of the stable. And our horses. And that is not going to happen again. Oh, it might happen again, but it will be the last time it happens in Ontario if it does. So Stay Close did what he could. Dominic said he was touching the bike, but I said, Dominic, you could have had a chariot on him. He wasn't, he's not going to try in 52 with Locatelli. Maybe someday, but he's not there yet. And, it's important that we remember that this is a horse that had a pretty scattered childhood and didn't have a lot of starts. Still doesn't have a lot of starts. So he's growing and learning, but we're not going to do it by racing him over his head. I can guarantee you that. I guess the easiest way to look at yesterday was all the horses that were above 5-1 didn't race that good. It's because they were in a tough spot. Locatelli was good. I thought he should have won, but that was a good horse that run him down. Perfetto's no slob. He was the O'Brien Award winner last year. Good horse, went to the Elite Lop, and even if he has fallen on somewhat tough times, still a good horse. And looked good getting by Locatelli. I thought he should have won, but I don't think he raced bad. A good second from him. The horse the last two are a little concerning. Renegade Gypsy looked a little off to me right hind in the last turn. We actually have a vet appointment for him and Resolute Bay at Dr. McKee's clinic today and tomorrow morning. I don't think it's anything serious, but remember we talked about him being down in the dumps a little bit and the cross ties and that real careful qualifier from James. I think there's just something lingering in there. Just a little maintenance that needs to be taken care of, but Renegade Gypsy's definitely seems to me, it doesn't seem to me, he is and was uncomfortable in the last turn. So we need to get to the bottom of what was going on with him. Is this something we can fix quickly? Is it a shoeing thing? I don't know. I've looked at the horse briefly. I couldn't see anything, but you could definitely see it in the video yesterday. So we'll get Renegade Gypsy looked at, get him under control, and get him back going. But I don't foresee there being any issues, so to speak, with Renegade Gypsy. Resolute Bay, that's just sheer soreness. I don't know what's going on with him. You're having a bugger trying to get him started back up so he can get on a roll this year, and I have to believe that maybe racing him in those starts in that graduate series probably played a negative role in that. He popped that splint left front, we crowded, and then late in the stretch yesterday, when a horse like him that's that tough can't make it the less than a 16th of a mile and rolls off in the last yards of the mile, I want to believe, and I don't want to believe, I'm almost positive something is really bothering him for him to do that. Now, it didn't look like there was any acute lameness last night, but there's definitely something at play here, both with Renegade Gypsy and Resolute Bay, and we need to nip them both in the bud. I suspect Gypsy's is going to be easier to do, whereas Resolute Bay, there may be a few little things bothering him. So with that, that's an update on yesterday. Today I'm going to train the babies here in just a minute, prep them with James and Mario and Danny and Johnny, prep them for the open house coming up this Saturday. I'm going to watch Oliver play baseball today, and then after the game around 8 o'clock I'm going to head to Ohio, get there around 12:30ish. Tomorrow, get up, go with the babies. We're going to school about 7 2-year-olds off the gate tomorrow. Pretty good miles. I want to get a good mile into pickpocket, especially pickpocket activation and arson, as they will be qualifying in 8 days. What day is today? In 9 days. In 9 days, activation, pickpocket, and arson will all qualify in anticipation of going to Oak Grove. We're going to move some horses out of Oak Grove. I already moved Stay Special out of there. She's back in Ohio. Era of Love is on gate right now. I explained why. I like the mare. I think she did so good for us that she just put herself in a tough spot. So, put us in a tough spot too. Not a lot of places to race her. So, I'm not going to give her away. There's a very good chance that we may buy Era of Love back. So we moved those horses out of there. Landing Strip will be going on gate also. Hopefully we can get Horn Player corrected. Then we're going to move those three 2-year-olds in down there to do some work towards the middle and end of the month. The meet at Oak Grove ends on July the 4th, so we'll be moving some horses around after that also. Now, racing tonight. Let's see if I can find that. We don't have anything. We have nothing racing today. It almost sucks, right? You have so many racing last night and have none today. I'm going to have to deal with that. That's just the way it is. And Wednesday we have some racing everywhere. So with that, I'm going to let you go. I hope you guys are going to have a good day. I hope you're having a good start to your day, and I hope you have a better day as the day marches on. For right now, I see James giving me the finger. That means let's get going. I'll talk to you all very soon. Take care.